creatives, Karen here, mixed media artist and creative at By the Wolf Moon. Welcome to part 2 of the 12 Days of Christmas altered book that I shared with you a few days ago. And in this video, it's just going to be a real quick one. I'm just finishing the cover of the book, which looks like that, and just the little cup on the back. Easy peasy, looks really cool. I'm just trying to show you. Can't really show you. There, the spine is easier to see. The embossed vinyl and how it looks after, because I was worried that the embossing wouldn't hold, but it has held quite well, so I am pretty pleased with that. Alright, let's get into it and finish off this video. Thanks for joining me again today. See you next time. So this is where we got to last time. I made a new cover for the book and covered it in paper, put folio the corners on, 3 of the corners, and a folio the spine. And in this episode I am going to decorate the outside of the cover and glue the text block into the new cover. Here I am just fussy cutting these 2 Christmassy mugs. I really wanted to use one of them on the back cover. Oh, I couldn't decide which one I wanted to use. I thought I might want to use both of them, but I ended up going with the white one, and it really is just for fun, just to add a bit more Christmas festivity to the book, and because they're so cute. So I fussy cut it and then inked around the edges and glued it on with my Halma 450. And yes, it is a bit crooked, but I just think that adds to the charm. Now I am going to move on to the front cover. As I mentioned in the last video, I wanted to use this laser cut wooden tree that I have had for a number of years, that was originally on one of my advent calendars, but I no longer am using it for that, so I wanted to use it for this book. First thing that I had to do was remove the fake snow that I had put on the tree. It's some kind of texture type paste, but it's soft like foam. I'm not sure what it's called. Anyway, I tried doing it with my knife, which kind of was working, and then realized it was just going to be much easier to sand it all off, and that worked pretty well. I didn't worry too much about removing the paint. I just wanted a smooth surface to work on, so I only worried about removing that texture from the front of the tree. The next thing that I wanted to do was reshape the trunk, because I wanted this to look slightly less whimsical, and I feel like that shape trunk there makes it a bit more whimsical, so I wanted more of a realistic or straight up and down tree trunk shape. So I just did that using a cutter, and it came away fairly easily. Now I'm left with this gap that I need to somehow fill up in the center of the trunk there. So what I decided on was a toothpick, which coincidentally happened to be exactly the right thickness to fill that little gap. So I just cut that to size and then glued it in with PVA glue, and that worked pretty well. Since the last video, I have learned that PVA is different to tacky glue. It's not what Americans call tacky glue at all, but I think we only have tacky glue at the craft shops here, and it's quite expensive, and PVA really does the job for what I need, so I just use PVA for the most part. now I am gessoing the whole tree, front and back, covering up all of that old paint as best that I can. I put 2 layers of gesso on, I believe. And then what I wanted to do, I needed to fix up that trunk so that you couldn't tell that I had stuck a toothpick in there. So I'm using my texture paste. If you want the recipe for homemade texture paste, which is what I'm using, just search for Laurie Marie Jenkins texture paste, and her recipe is the one that I use, and I love it. I use it for all sorts of things. It dries really hard and is great to use. So I am making just a kind of a bark effect on the tree trunk, as well as covering up that toothpick. I use this skewer barbecue stick thing for putting my texture paste on, and I don't clean it off after I use it because that adds with creating texture the next time I use it. So I sort of scrape it off, but I don't worry too much about cleaning everything off, and that just adds to creating the texture next time I use it, which is awesome. So you can see there that it kind of has a bark effect on the tree. And then it was time to paint. Now at this stage in the painting process, I thought that I was going to make the tree kind of almost realistic colours, and so initially I just painted the trunk in this beautiful copper colour, and then painted the whole tree gold, and then I was going to add in some blues and greens. And then at about this stage I decided that nope, that wasn't what I wanted to do at all. So I came back with the copper paint and ended up painting the whole tree copper except for the little birds and the candle flame at the top of the tree. Well, I don't know if it's a candle flame. I assume it's a candle flame, but actually I'm thinking it's a leaf. But I've decided it's a candle flame, which is a random place, a random thing to have on the top of the tree. As I am saying this, I'm only just realizing it. So anyway, I've made it a candle flame, as you can see here. So the birds are gold, candle flame or whatever it is on the top of the tree is gold, and the tree is copper. While that's drying, I'm going to attach the text block to the cover. So I'm just using one of those strips of fabric that I cut in the last video, folding it in half and measuring it against the text block to check the width. I don't want it too thin, like skinny, but I also don't want it to cover too much of the page that I've decorated. So I am just going to trim down a tiny bit the side, the half that I'm gluing onto the text block here. And then I am going to use my Helma 450 glue and glue down that shorter side of the fabric to the text block, and then I'm basically going to do exactly the same thing on the back of the block. So glue that down, let it dry, flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. And then let those dry before we glue the other side of the piece of fabric and glue it into the book. Now, full disclosure, I made an error and I actually glued the spine of the text block to the spine of the cover. However, that was not the right thing to do because it makes it very hard now to open each page of the book. It's still possible, but it's not easy, so don't do that. Don't do what I did. I think just glue the two pieces of fabric to the cover and the text block and don't glue the spine, which will mean the pages open much easier. There we go, that's all done. Let that dry and back to the tree. So now I wanted to add a little bit of glitter to the birds to make them stick out a bit more. So I had found this glitter that my son had bought a long time ago when he was painting his car. So I found it in my craft stash, so I thought I'd use it because normally I'm not really a glittery type of person, so I don't use it much. But you know, Christmas is the time for glitter. If there is any time for glitter, then it has to be Christmas. So I simply mixed the glitter with the gold paint and painted it on to the birds very carefully, and I don't believe I painted it on the candle flame at the top of the tree. Just the birds. So that turned out quite well, quite nice and subtle, not too glittery. And then I did want to add a little bit of snow. Even though we're in New Zealand and we're in the middle of summer, it does not snow here at all. Not where I am anyway. It doesn't snow all year round. We don't get very, very cold winters. We have quite mild winters compared to some places. But snow and Christmas go together, so I am painting just a little bit of snow onto the tips of some of the leaves and the branches, just using PVA again, and then this white glitter that I also found in my stash from I don't know how long ago because I can't even remember buying it, and also a little bit at the bottom of the tree trunk. It just kind of added to the whole tree, gave it a little bit more dimension and depth, and I'm pretty happy with that. I really love the copper colour against that background paper. I think that was a good choice. And now to stick the tree onto the cover, I am using 3D foam, or sticky adhesive foam, and I am just going to put a strip down the center and then two little bits at the ends of the branches on the bottom. But I'm doing a double layer because I wanted it to stick out from the cover noticeably. So I am doing two layers of foam on top of each other, and then sticking it to the cover. Well, I will be when I pull the paper off. And there we go, it is stuck on. And then it's really just a matter of tizzying it up a little bit. So I have this trim that I purchased for a custom sewing job that I had, and it really fit perfectly with the kind of Christmas snowy, icicle-y thing with those pointy bits, so I glued that down against the vinyl cover of the spine, and then a nice little smaller piece of lace across the corners, just on the front. I didn't worry about the back. And that is this project done. So I really hope you enjoyed following along with this video, and it wasn't too boring for you. I'm just flipping through the whole book so you can see all those beautiful illustrations one last time. I just still think they're gorgeous. That's the project done, so thank you again for joining me, and I will see you in the next video.